Welcome back to It Is One Podcast. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Bailey.
And Bailey, before we start today, I just want to talk to you about letting go.
Letting go?
Yeah.
Like when you're hanging out with your friend at like a cliff or something and they start to fall off and you catch their hand and you're like, don't worry, buddy, I'll save you. And then you find out that they're a fat fuck, so you just drop them to fall to their death?
I was going to say letting go from the social constraints of capitalism and consumerism, but yeah, sure.
Oh.
It got real dark. On that note, let's talk about today's movie.
What's that today?
Well, I don't know if I can say it.
Why?
Because the first rule and the second rule are don't talk about it. So it's a 1999 movie written by Jim Uhls based off the book by Chuck Palahniuk, which I always pronounce wrong. I thought it was Palahniuk for the longest time. And directed by David Fincher.
Oh, that sounds like a movie that might also have Edward Norton and Brad Pitt in it.
Yeah, as the main characters.
Yeah.
And then also has Helena Bonham Carter in it.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about.
Okay, because as long as we know what we're talking about and don't say it.
Then we aren't breaking any rules.
Right, because I don't want to break rules.
Yeah, I wouldn't want anyone to fight me.
I don't think so either, especially in a club. With that being said, we are reviewing the 1999 masterpiece, Fight Club.
I can't believe you just said it, bud.
Rules are meant to be broken.
Absolutely. I'm here for it.
So on a scale from 1 to 5, with 1 being the worst piece of shit you've ever seen, 5 being excellent, 3 being average, what do you give Fight Club?
So this is one of the few movies that I would give a 5 to, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. I think that this is a perfect movie. I don't think there's anything that could have been done to improve on this movie. I think that it's amazing.
It's a 5 for me, too.
Dude, you're a copycat, bro.
I am a copycat. You know who's not a copycat?
Robert Ebert.
Roger Ebert?
Robert Ebert?
Yeah, isn't Robert Paulson?
Yeah.
What do you think he gave it?
Probably a 3 on his scale, a 3.5 on his scale.
No, he gave it a 2 out of 4.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
He was not a fan of it. I think it kind of went over his head.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, he might have been a little elderly when it came out and not understand the, like, generational position. You know what I mean?
I mean,
if that makes sense. Do you know what I'm talking about?
How this movie kind of criticizes Generation X.
Yeah, and their value systems and the values they tried to impart on their children.
Which would be the millennials.
Yeah.
Generation Y.
Yeah. It's because this movie spends a lot of its time criticizing consumerism. And actually, before we start that, do you want to give like a basic summary of this movie?
I thought you'd never ask.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I can tell that you really like this. I really like it too. But a basic summary is there's a guy played by Edward Norton who has insomnia and goes by several different names at support groups because he never wants anybody to know who he actually is because he's ashamed. But he suffers from testicular cancer, parasites,
bowel cancer.
Bowel cancer. That was a good one. All these different things. But he goes there in order to solve his actual problem, which is insomnia. And eventually, he meets a guy named Tyler Durden, played by Brad Pitt, who teaches him the art of letting go by starting an underground fight club and beating the shit out of each other. And because of this, he's able to sleep.
You make it sound so much more simple than it actually is.
Oh, but well, that's the other thing, because this movie is grossly misinterpreted, and I'm going to grossly misinterpret it for the spoiler-free review.
Okay.
Because the movie's great. You should go out and see it. It's been dubbed the ultimate dude movie. If you're a man, you should watch this. This is the most masculine movie you'll ever see in your life, okay? Brad Pitt's body fat percentage was like -3.
I didn't know that was even physically possible, but Brad Pitt does it in this movie.
Brad Pitt does it in this movie. You also get to see boobs, okay? Guys beating the shit out of each other. You got blood. It's great. So like, it's the ultimate movie that will make you feel like a man, and you should be Tyler Durden. You should always want to be Tyler Durden. But yeah, this movie is about a dude who just wants to sleep.
I mean, that's a interesting perspective, for sure.
What would you say? If you had to give a spoiler-free review, how would you spoiler-free review it?
If I had to give a spoiler-free review of this movie, I would say that it is a man who has insomnia, who tries various different means to get over said insomnia, generally support groups. At these support groups, he runs into a woman named Marla Singer who makes it to where he is unable to feel the relief he feels from them because he knows that she is also faking. And because of that, he is very stressed. And while under this extreme stress, he meets an individual named Tyler. His apartment blows up, which makes it to where he has to, seek help, which he calls Tyler. And then he and Tyler start a club together where, things happen. And that's my spoiler-free summary of this movie.
He starts his own support group.
Yeah, exactly.
For men only.
Exactly.
Like the testicle thing.
Men-only support group.
Yeah. But no, this movie came out in 1999. It's a very popular movie. If you haven't seen it, go out and see it. You should. If you can rent it off Amazon. I own it. I bought it off Amazon because I really enjoy this movie.
I have a physical copy of this movie.
This movie's great.
Yeah, it is.
And I watched it my dad showed me this movie. And much like American Psycho, I miss the entire point of this movie because I watched it when I was too young. But with that being said, we'll jump into the spoiler section. There's a lot to talk about and a lot to unpack with this movie. If you have seen the movie, get ready because we're about to unpack it and you get to hear us be idiots.
And be idiots on a podcast.
Be two idiots on one podcast.
Interesting.
Ooh, we did it. A little bit of branding. But if you haven't, this is your last chance. We're going to go and play the transition music to let you know that there is, in fact, about to be spoilers. Bailey, roll the music. Love that music.
It was magically delicious.
The fuck is wrong with you?
The music.
The music was not magically delicious.
It was. It made me it made me feel like I was on some kind of like PBS program.
It's a fucking brand, man. We can't do that. So I love this movie.
I do too.
And I think this movie is very grossly misunderstood.
I've watched a lot of different interpretation videos of this movie, and I've read the book, and I've seen so many different things. I've heard interviews with Chuck, the writer of the book, and I think that a lot of people misinterpret it, but I think there's also a lot of people who get it pretty spot on. I think it just depends on what source you're using to find out what the movie's about.
Well, I'm saying like the majority of people.
There are a lot of people I've tried to talk to about this movie who don't see it as anti-consumerism and don't see any of like that stuff in it. And they just see it as like hardcore guys doing hardcore shit.
And that is what I wanted to talk about because I read an article because I like to see people's different views and opinions on it because I know what the movie's about. The movie is very anti-capitalism, anti-consumerism. And the difference between the movie and the book is the movie focuses more on letting go and freeing yourself from that, where the book is just like, fuck capitalism. But at the same time, there are people who watch the movie, and one of the things I read said it was a woman who wrote it, she was like, yeah, I know a woman liking this movie because this is a dude movie. Like, it was voted the dude movie, the most guy movie of all time, and it's a satirical piece. It's a dark comedy, but it is fundamentally, when you look at it, you misunderstand it, about the repression of masculinity in the world today and how we need to break our chains and put women back in the kitchen, let them do their own thing because we are men, they are oppressing us, and we need to be men again. So we need to beat the shit out of each other because that is the most manly thing that you can do because but that's seriously it. There are groups of people who genuinely believe that's what the movie is trying to say. Like, we need to oppress women and get back into our fundamentalist ideas. But the funny part is the same people who are saying this are also doing what the movie is saying not to do and misunderstanding it by being like, oh, well, the values that have been instilled upon me that were lost, I need to, instill again on everybody else, which is what the movie's saying, like, nah, don't do that.
So one of my favorite points in that, which supports what you're saying, is the bus scene where Tyler and the narrator get on the bus and they're talking about who you would fight if you could fight any historical figure. And the narrator's like, oh, I'd fight Gandhi. And Tyler's like, oh, well, I would fight Lincoln. But then once they get on the bus, they see a picture of a Calvin Klein model and they're like, oh, is that what a man's supposed to look like? And that's exactly what you're talking about, because this movie causes guys to be like, I need to be buff and strong and know how to fight. So they go to the gym to lift weights and get big and scary looking. But that's not what it's about.
No, it's not what it's about at all.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. But no, I agree, because that's correct. Like, that's what and the movie does that for satire.
Absolutely.
It is satirical purposes to be like, this is consumerism. This is Calvin Klein saying, if you want to be a man, wear our underwear and look like this.
Yeah.
That's what it is. But these people don't understand that and look at it as, oh, I need to be buff, fuck a lot of women, and then make sure that they get oppressed because that's cool. And, oh, I'm a man. I need to go out and just fucking beat the shit out of people. Oh, roid rage.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely how some people interpret it, which I also agree is definitely the wrong way to interpret it.
I think this is a lot like American Psycho in the sense that the movie looks, and I don't think it's a feminist movie like American Psycho is, but I think that it definitely looks at misogyny and goes, you're stupid, because you're not supposed to relate to Tyler.
So I don't know if it's so much misogyny, and I'm not trying to cut you off again, but I think it's more about toxic masculinity than.
Well, wouldn't that be the same thing? Because isn't toxic masculinity misogyny in and of itself? Because, and I agree, it is toxic masculinity, but isn't that? I mean, don't they go hand in hand?
I agree that they go hand in hand, but I think toxic masculinity is more of a subcategory to misogyny, because misogyny is really broad, and this isn't so much about the oppression of women in my mind as it's about the toxicity of some men's masculinity. Like how some men try to paint themselves as masculine is toxic. And I think this movie is trying to make it easier for average people to see that, if that makes sense.
No, this movie does a very good job of, this is what toxic masculinity and consumerism
looks,
and you should not do either.
Yeah.
It is destructive to do these things, because the movie promotes the idea of free thinking. I would say that it's, free thinking and freedom, but to rebel against consumerism, but not in the way that Tyler does. Because Tyler, his plan is very childish and fundamentally flawed.
Well, I mean, his plan is, he's a terrorist. Like, Tyler's character is a terrorist.
Well, his plan also doesn't make sense.
It made more sense when the book was written than it would now.
Right, but even then, though, at the same time, it wouldn't have made that much sense. Well, I mean, it makes more sense now, you are correct, but it still doesn't make sense even at the time, because what he is proposing is a complete reset by destroying the big banks and credit card companies. By blowing them up and releasing everybody from debt, then we will all be free. And I don't think that's how that works. Because so the way that I look at it, this is just me. If that happens, right? If Project Mayhem is funded and we blow up the credit card companies or whatever, right? Someone actually does it. They go out and do that. Then what happens is somebody else will come along and do the exact same thing. You cannot get rid of it. There is no way to fundamentally get rid of it without somebody, because that's what capitalism is, right? You destroy one thing and then somebody else sees it as an opportunity to seize the day, carpe diem, and become what you just destroyed. So I think that even if that happened, even if it did happen, you wouldn't do anything, because it would come back. You can't get rid of them. You can't erase the debt. The debt will always be there.
Well, so like I said, I think that when the book was written in the 90s, it would make more sense because they had the internet back then, but it wasn't as widely available. So a lot of companies had still physical records for their storage and stuff. I don't know for sure. But in my mind, back in like the 90s when this book was written, destroying the physical building could realistically potentially erase someone's debt in the event that that was where it was housed, like the physical records. Like, it wouldn't do anything now because physical records are irrelevant because everything's online. But I feel like back in the 90s, destroying the building, if it was the main building, it could realistically wipe your credit history, or at least debts that are tracked by that specific entity.
But that's the problem. because if you erase someone's credit history, you have erased them, right? Because now they go back to zero. They have no credit. So it is harder for them to do things because debt is a part of society, no matter what.
I'm not in debt.
But you were at one point, right?
Very little.
But still. And debt is a good thing if you use it correctly. Like I'm a very big believer of if you use like what rich people do, rich people go into debt all the time, but they do it correctly. And if you can use it to your advantage, you will always come out on top. And I think that even if you did that, if you set somebody back to zero, even in the 90s or whatever, then it becomes harder to do stuff because no credit is looked at as, oh, well, you've never borrowed. Now I don't know if I can trust you, so I'm not going to give you good interest rates. Like credit's super important.
Right.
And I think that erasing that is a mistake because debt will always incur no matter what. Even before credit systems and all that, we still had, indentured servitude. We were indebted to everybody all the time. You do this for me, I do this for you.
Right. So but the thing is about that, and why I disagree is because he's not just erasing the debt or the credit systems to reset everyone to zero. He's erasing their current debt. So if someone just bought a house and they owe like $200,000 on it or whatever, now they don't owe anything. So they just own their house. Or that's my understanding of what he was trying to do. Like obviously it was also to reset everyone's credit to zero instead of, a 650 or 720 or an 800 or whatever. He was also trying to make it, oh, you're $20,000 in debt. You have student loans, you have house payments, you have car payments. No more. Like, I think that was part of his goal.
Right, but he was going about it in a very childish way because it doesn't make sense to do it that way. Like, I understand the idea behind it, and, what the movie tries to say is that you should rebel and do this, but you shouldn't do it the way that Tyler does it. Because if you do it that way, he has really good beliefs about things sometimes. And some of the things that he says make sense, but kind of a child the way that he does things. He constantly goes out and pranks people, never takes accountability for anything, right? Like he has the idea of, like you said, erasing people's debts, but the wrong way.
Personally, I think blowing up buildings and for any context is probably the wrong thing to do.
Well, like Project Mayhem, the whole thing is wrong. Like there is nothing redeeming about Project Mayhem at all.
I disagree. I think his human sacrifices are good.
What do you mean?
So in the movie, one of the homework assignments that Project Mayhem gives out is called human sacrifice. And I know that hearing that, especially if you haven't seen the movie, you're like, oh, human sacrifice, they're killing people. But what human sacrifice is in the context of the movie is they find a random individual working at a dead-end job. The specific example we're given in Fight Club is Raymond K. Hessel working at a convenience store who wanted to be a veterinarian. So the human sacrifice was Brad Pitt or Tyler Durden basically holding him up at gunpoint, asking for his ID, keeping his ID, being like, hey, what did you want to be? Oh, a veterinarian? Cool. In 6 weeks, I have your ID. I'm coming by your house. And if you're not becoming a veterinarian, then, it's over for you, bud. Sorry. I think that's a good thing. I think it's a fucked up way to do it because you shouldn't motivate someone into getting their life together by putting a gun to their head and threatening to kill them. But I can't see Tyler as a bad guy for doing that specific thing and for having his followers do that specific thing.
But that's the problem because Tyler is a bad guy.
I agree that he's a bad guy. I'm just saying that I don't think you can say that everything he did was entirely wrong because he had good intentions, even if, he's a terrorist and fucked up and wrong. But he wasn't doing it for necessarily evil reasons because even blowing up the buildings, he made sure all of the civilians and stuff were gone.
Right. He did it in the humane way, I guess, is how you call it. Because you're right. He did make all of that. But at the same time, he went about, like everything that he did was wrong. Like you said, he scared someone through the threat of murder and said, I'm going to come and kill you in 6 weeks if you're not on the path to being what you are. And, Edward Norton even thinks that the gun is loaded. The gun's not.
There's not even any bullets.
No, he had no intentions of actually doing anything. It was the fear factor of the whole thing. But like you said, the way that he went about doing it was wrong. And the way that he goes about doing everything in the movie is wrong. In theory, great idea. but it's executed in a very childish manner. But people don't realize that because everybody wants to be like Tyler Durden. Because David Fincher does a really good job of, and so does Brad Pitt, of like, this is what's cool, and really focusing on that and playing that up more than, and downplaying his, obvious faults of terrorism. Because, like, that's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
But nobody looks at it like that because they're all like, oh, I'm just going to blindly follow him. But I mean, the movie, I think the introduction part of it is really good. Like, this is a good opening too.
Are you talking about the CGI brain stuff?
I was more talking about when Edward Norton is on the toilet ordering from a catalog, and then all the stuff that he's bought throughout the years through the catalogs being the definition of consumer, which he even says,
yeah, if
I see something, I have to have it because it looks cool. I think that, do you have that quote down?
I thought I did, but no.
Yeah, but he even says that. And I think that is, much like American Psycho, I think that's a good introductory part of it. Because the CGI part where it goes from, the thought of the brain stem and all the way to, the sweat dripping off of his forehead to the barrel
gun.
of the gun.
Yeah.
Which was really, really cool.
Done so well.
No, it was done, even in 99,
done
super well.
Wholeheartedly agree.
And if you watch it in HD, you can like really see the sweat beads. So cool. But anyway, I remember when it first came out on Blu-ray, it was like, holy fuck. But no, when you watch it and he's having that conversation about consumerism, about doing that, about going to the hotels, the single serving friends, the single serving everything, being this bland, boring guy that has no life and wants to escape it, I think that's the movie. Like that's what the movie's trying, and even the book too is telling you, is that if you live this capitalistic, consumeristic lifestyle and let it consume you to where you're more focused on the materialistic things that you have, because even Tyler says, you are not your car and all that, but which is one of the best quotes in the movie because it really exemplifies, like that whole bar scene we'll talk about. Where he's talking about consumerism as a whole, but this really sets everything up as Edward Norton is upset and angry because that's what it does. Because you become a magazine essentially, where you're just ordering things left and right because you think that you have to have it and are very attached to your possessions, and those become you.
So that whole scene it exemplifies that emptiness that Edward Norton's character feels. Like he buys all these things to fill his apartment up, but inside he feels nothing but sleepiness.
But even with insomnia, you're never truly awake and you're never really asleep.
Right, but what I'm saying is all of the buying and stuff, it's just leading to him feeling emptier and emptier, which is why he creates the Tyler persona and why, ends up with Marla and why he starts going to the meetings.
Well, he can't even fully commit to Marla.
Right.
Like, that's the thing because of this.
Yeah.
And I think that also has to play into that toxic masculinity thing as well. What quotes do you... Like, I know you took 3 or 4 pages of shit.
I have 5 pages of notes.
You have 5 pages of notes.
So my first quote is Bob had bitch tits. That's my first quote. Okay. Because that's the first, like, super quotable thing. Because even before he goes to the apartment, it's showing him at the meetings. Like, before the scene where it's going around his apartment, showing like his yin yang coffee table and his IKEA furniture set and the dining room set that really defines him.
Yes.
Like he's talking about Bob's bitch tits.
Well, he's talking about being pressed in between Bob's bitch tits.
Yeah, which are Bob's bitch tits.
Right. But no, well, because even Bob is the capitalistic consumer.
Well, he's the aftermath of it because, he consumed steroids and he, was a capitalist. He had created this chest expansion routine that everybody loved and had wealth and power and all of this, and then got testicular cancer, had his testicles removed, grew bitch tits. Now his wife left him, his kids won't talk to him. It's the aftermath of consumerism.
Oh, and Meatloaf, rest his soul, is who plays Bob, by the way.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, and I think I like his character a lot because of that, because I think that was what they were trying to... The point they were trying to get across is like, this is the result, like you said. So, but what's the next quote? We'll just this is called Bailey's quotes segment. So we're just gonna go through the fucking quotes.
So the next one is the line that we said, which I didn't think I had it written down, but I guess I do. What kind of dining set defines me as a person? Which is a comment on consumerism,
as a whole.
Yeah, which we just talked about. Oh, so this is a quote that's foreshadowing that's right after this scene. It's when he's talking to the doctor about his insomnia. And he's like, okay, but what about narcolepsy? I nod off and I wake up in strange places and I have no idea how I got there. That's foreshadowing the Tyler Durden thing.
Oh, don't worry. There'll be a whole segment where we talk about how this movie foreshadows and spoils itself.
Yeah.
Including the one scene where it does ruin the ending for you. Because there's one specific scene that we'll talk about where he fucks up. But yeah, we'll talk about that one. So keep that one because there are a lot.
So the next thing I have written down is the first time we see Tyler, which is during the same scene I was just talking about when he's talking to the doctor.
But that's not officially the first time that we see Tyler. Because the first time that we officially see Tyler
is in the opening.
I mean, like as let me rephrase that. Introduced officially as a character is when he is passing him on
the plane.
The I've never been to an airport, so I don't know what they're called, but the little like escalators that aren't escalators on the plane.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the first time that we are actually properly introduced.
So during a lot of the scenes prior to that, I'm sure you know this, but we have fans who may not. Tyler randomly appears in a lot of early scenes in this as a quick flash in the background or sometimes in the foreground of shots.
Well, let's set this up because there's a little background that you have to know when you watch this movie is that Tyler has a job where he splices together reels. Okay, because back in the day when you watch movies, because everything's digital now, there had to be a guy that would sit in the booth, right? And when one of the rolls would end, you would have to splice the film together so that way the movie is continuous and there weren't blimps. But you can see these through the little blimps that appear in the top right corner because in the industry they called them cigarette burns. But Tyler would have a little fun because who would want this shit job, right? Tyler would, because he splices single frames of pornography into it. So when the happy cat and the mouse meet each other for the first time, bam, a big dick. And no one's really sure what they saw, but they know. But they won't talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
But that's what happens is a single frame of Tyler flashes. And I think there's like 4 instances where if you pause the movie, because I've had to, it's like really hard to do. But if you pause it at just the right time, you can see him. And it's kind of funny.
Yeah. So the next one is the next time that Tyler pops up, which is during the meeting right before he meets Bob.
Okay.
And then I have a little comment making fun of the shitty CGI penguin right before Chloe is talking about how she needs to be fucked.
Okay, so that I wanted to talk about that one because I like that scene.
I love that scene. That's probably...
Well, that was for brain tumors, right?
Yeah.
Why would nobody fuck her? I didn't think she looked that bad.
It's just one of those things. Like, if you knew someone was dying, like, I don't know. I don't know why no one would have sex with her.
Is it because she looked like Meryl Streep's skeleton dressed up and smiling at people?
That's cold-blooded, but maybe. I wasn't gonna say it. I was just gonna think it.
Well, I didn't even say it because Edward Norton says it in the movie.
But yeah, I've written in my notes for that part, please somebody fuck Chloe.
Yeah, somebody, yeah, because she has pornographic movies, lube.
Everything.
I got dildos. But that shows the desperation. It also comes full circle when he burns, when Tyler burns Edward Norton's, I'm going to call him Jack, when he burns Jack's hand. That comes full circle because he even talks about how he's going to his happy place, don't focus on the pain, and he goes, don't do what the people who are fucking dying are doing. Focus on it. This is the part that is setting you free. This is single-handedly the greatest moment of your life, and you're not even here.
Yeah, you're not even experiencing it. You're off in some faraway place in your mind.
Right, so don't do what they do. And I think that scene is very powerful. It's also one of the reasons why it foreshadows, because how does Tyler know about that?
Right.
There's not been one time in the movie where he has made a reference to going to those.
Yeah.
So how would Tyler know?
I mean, that's fair.
Unless they're the same fucking person. But anyway, continue with your quotes.
So the next quote I have is, when people think you are dying, they really listen to you instead of waiting for their turn to speak. And I think that that's just a good quote in general, not necessarily for this movie, but just real life, because a lot of folks be like that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Are we going to go through all 5 pages of this?
No. I'm just doing this until you want to do something else, because...
Oh, we can do something else. That's okay. Because you're going through the entire fucking movie.
You told me to.
And you're just going to do what I say? Did you miss the entire point of the movie? The entire point of the movie is to free your mind, dude.
I mean, that's fair.
Congratulations, you just fell into the consumerism trap. But no, I think that there are a couple of instances in this movie where there are. We'll talk about the ending, or not the ending. Well, yeah, I guess the ending, the big reveal, and how this movie sets it up. Okay, and I'm gonna go through them. I'm gonna give you specific things. The blimps, if you pause them, you can see Tyler. That is him becoming Tyler in that moment with the insomnia. How does Tyler know that he went to the support groups?
Well, I mean, he might tell him that.
Well, why does he never say his name? Marla even says, this doesn't have your name. Is it Cornelius? Any of the other names that you go by? Because Marla doesn't even know it, right?
Right.
Never once says his name. He goes by different names all the time, which could just be that he doesn't want anybody to know what his actual name is, or it could be that he is pretending to be somebody that he's not. Because Tyler is what he wants to be, not what he is. So he can't be Tyler. Him and Marla fuck, but are never in the same room. Ever. There is not one time that you see Tyler. Tyler also says, don't talk to her about me. I mean, because that would shatter the illusion because she knows who he is. And on top of that, after they fuck that first time and he's eating cereal in the kitchen, and Marla walks in and says, starts talking to him, being friendly or whatever, and then he goes, what the fuck are you doing in my house?
Yeah.
Get out. And she's like, fuck you. Because she is genuinely upset that he is talking to her like that because they just, fucked. And now he's like, they perform the booty bump and he's like, I don't like you, get out. But the scene that really sets up the entire ending and ruins it, if you pay very close attention, is when him and Marla are in the kitchen and they're talking about Chloe dying. It's the scene where he accepts that her and Tyler are a thing and he's been an asshole, so he just needs to say something. He starts talking, and where he slips up is he says, well, what about you and me? And then she goes, well, let's talk about you and me. Boom. Right in that moment, if you were paying attention, you could be like, oh, shit.
Yeah, why would there be a you and me if, you've been hanging out with my roommate, Tyler, this whole time?
The entire time, yeah. So that's the moment in the movie where if you're paying attention, it ruins it. And you're like, okay. Before the big reveal of we're the same person. I am everything that you want to be. But yeah, I think there are tons of... And once you watch this movie, the little things like that pop out to you. And also the fact... It becomes very, very awkward to watch him fight Tyler because you know that he's fighting himself. And that's another part where it ruins it, is when he's beating himself up in front of his boss. He says, for some reason, this reminded me of my first fight with Tyler.
Yeah, I have that one down.
Yeah, because that's a good quote.
Yeah.
Because why would it remind him of his first fight with Tyler unless he was beating himself up?
Exactly.
And the fact that people watched him beat the shit out of himself and then still wanted to be in a fight club with him is like, what?
I mean, I don't know. I think that if I was to see someone acting real crazy, but then I was to go talk to them and they were like articulate and normal, I might listen to what they have to say.
I wouldn't say that they were normal because he's beating himself and pretending to be two people. But I don't know. I think the really good reveal is when he's, sitting there and Tyler pops up and is like, think about it. Why would he think that we're the same person?
Yeah.
Like, why? There you go. My favorite quote in the whole movie is, "Whoa, you are shooting bullets at your imaginary friend around 400 gallons of nitroglycerin."
Yeah, and the way he like screams during it is hilarious.
No, Brad Pitt. This reminds me of Brad Pitt in 12 Monkeys. Like 12 Monkeys, Brad Pitt is what he did at the end, I think. No, the movie is ruined for you, and the big twist is there that he's, crazy. But when you watch it the second time, if you don't know that, you watch it the second time, the movie's completely different. It becomes very awkward, especially in the scene where he's drunk and everybody's doing Project Mayhem, and Marla comes up and she's like, what is all this? He goes, he's not here. And she's like, what? He goes, Tyler isn't here. This becomes super fucking awkward because you're looking at her and you're like, oh, I get why she's looking at him like you're a fucking moron.
Yeah.
Because you are Tyler. And you're not here right now. It's funny, I guess, watching him, knowing that he's beating himself up, knowing that he's burning himself, and technically he fights twice every night, at least. because every time we see him fight, we know that he's fought, and then Tyler has also fought, because I am Jack's colon.
Right. I'm Jack's raging bile duct.
Which is a funny thing is because he never actually gives his name when people are referring to him. Technically, he's referred to as the narrator.
Yeah.
But he has had the unofficial name of Jack. A lot of fans have
Dubbed him Jack.
dubbed him Jack because of the I am Jack's colon, I am Jack's rage. But I think a lot of the movie is satire, and when Edward Norton and David Fincher read the script for it, they thought that it was funny.
Oh,
They
yeah.
thought that it was a dark comedy that was satirical in nature. When Brad Pitt read it, he related to it because he was like, I had it all. Because at the time he did. He was getting close to the height of his career. I would say that this really started it, But he had been in Seven. He had just finished filming the Meet Joe Black.
Okay.
He had just finished filming that, which, I mean, the movie's okay, where he's a peanut butter eating persona of death. Spoiler alert for that, I guess. I don't know. I don't like that movie, but he was doing good. He was at the height of he was getting up there, and then I think the early 2000s is when he really took off. But he was also with Jennifer Aniston at the time, which was America's Sweetheart. And he said that he had everything, but still felt like he didn't have anything at all. So he related to what the narrator was feeling. I think that those two different approaches
Really set it in.
really set it in, because you can see, and I think you can see it in their acting too, because I think that he really fell into his character, where Edward Norton also really fell into his character because they understood, they really understood where their characters were coming from. And I think that made, and a lot of people looked over David Fincher's films, as kind of like, oh, okay, like Seven was, at the time it was like, okay, I like David Fincher. I think Eraserhead's fucking weird. But see, that's even an example of that.
I liked Eraserhead.
25 minutes. 25 fucking minutes is how long it takes for someone to say a word in that movie. Oh, also, fun fact, I watched Jacob's Ladder yesterday. I thought that was Eraserhead for the longest time.
Really?
Really got those two confused. Yeah.
Interesting.
But before I watched Eraserhead, I always thought that if you took the picture of Eraserhead, that's on the cover, and then put Jacob's Ladder on it, I'd be like, oh, it's that the movie. Totally different movies.
Yes.
Jacob's Ladder's great though, but totally different movies. But anyway, it's a little off topic, so I apologize. Give us another quote.
Okay. So Marla Singer?
Yeah.
This isn't a quote. You know the scene where it shows her titties?
How it's not actually her titties and it's CGI?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know. I thought that might be a fun fact to toss in.
I too watched the commentary.
Is that from the commentary?
Yeah, if you watch the commentary, because you have it on DVD, because I used to have it on DVD.
I've seen the commentary. I don't know if that's where. I haven't watched the commentary since I bought the DVD like 10 years ago.
The three things that I really distinctly remember all involve her, actually. Four things now that I think about it. That I really remember from the commentary is that was fake and used CGI because she didn't want to actually show her titties. They went dildo shopping to find the perfect dildo for the scene when he hits it, and she goes, "Don't worry."
Yeah, her shelf.
Her
in
shelf.
room.
Yeah, it's not a threat to you. When Tyler and Marla are having sex upstairs and it's very loud, she talks about that, and her and Brad Pitt would just jump up and down on the bed while screaming and moaning, and that's how they did those scenes. Like, that's all it is. And she was like, we had a lot of fun with that. And then the scene where she walks out in the middle of the street and the cars stop, she said that was terrifying to do.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it at all.
She's like, those were her least favorite scenes to film because of how scared she was that she was going to get hit. But she had to, do it because that's what because Marla's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, Marla, takes pills and then says, this isn't really a suicide. It's more of a call for help.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're going to have to keep me up all night long. Because if I fall asleep, I'm done.
So another thing about her that I think is funny is she is referred to or she refers to herself as infectious human waste as the police are like running to rescue her because they think she's in there dying.
Oh, she shit talks herself so much.
It's so funny. She is hilarious. Another quote from her in this movie that is a different quote in the book. Do you want to say it? Or do you want me to?
You can say it. You brought it up. I know what you're talking about, but go ahead.
So in the movie, the quote is, "I haven't been fucked like that since grade school," which comedy gold, absolutely. But the actual quote from the book is, "I want to have your abortions," which I think is equally funny.
I think they're both very, very dark.
But dark and funny are synonyms, in my opinion.
No, I mean, you can definitely have one and the other. Like, definitely on that one.
But that's probably my favorite Marla Singer quote.
I think so. I don't know what my favorite quote from her. Like, this movie is very quotable, and, sticking feathers up your butt does not make you a chicken.
Exactly.
We are monkeys being shot, like the first monkeys shot in space.
The condom is the glass slipper of our generation.
We're all space monkeys. Fuck Martha Stewart. Which, let's talk about this scene. Let's talk about the bar scene, because I think the bar scene exemplifies another aspect of this movie and, like, the consumerism, where after his apartment blows up, he calls Tyler. Oh, that's another way that you can tell this movie was all in his head, because how did he call him back? Because I wasn't familiar with payphones, so I did my research before I opened my mouth, okay? You can call payphones, but you have to know the number.
You can't star 69 them?
I don't think you can start 69 them. Can you start? I'm going to look it up now.
I am almost 100% confident that you can star 69 just about anything other than a block number. But I don't actually know because I'm not that kind of doctor. I'm not a doctor at all.
Oh, yeah, you can.
I figured you could. Dude, imagine bringing shit up and not even knowing what you're talking about.
But how did he do it that quickly?
You literally have to hit star 69 and then call.
Well, no, because it gives you the number. It doesn't call him back. It gives you the number for the payphones. Then you have to, like, put in the number and call him.
Does it?
So the internet said, I don't use payphones.
So
payphones aren't a thing.
I don't know about payphones, but I know on my house phone, like 15 years ago when we had those, if someone called us, I could just hit star 69 and then the call button and it would automatically call him back.
Yeah, but that was like landlines, not payphones. Payphones were a whole different beast.
Right, but if he's calling a landline, I feel like the landline would have the same like capability to call it back. You don't think so? I feel like payphones are the exact same as landlines.
If you ever used a payphone
I've
and a
used
landline,
payphones.
you've used a payphone?
Yeah.
Okay. Then you know what you're talking about, and I will concede this.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident that it's literally the same thing. I don't know if it's the same thing. Like if I was on a payphone and I hit star 69, I would call the last person who called the payphone. But I think if a payphone called me and I was a star 69, it would just immediately work.
I have to go find a fucking payphone and do this.
Do you want to go test it right now? We can pause the podcast and go payphone hunting.
There's not a pay. No, they take out like you have to go to like London or some shit.
No, I'm sure we could find one in OKC or something. It might be a few hour drive, but we could find a payphone.
Fuck that. I'm gonna look up nearest payphone.
Okay. And while he's doing that, I'm gonna talk about another quote from this movie that I really like. Unless you don't think I should.
No, go ahead. I just didn't want you reading all 5 pages of nothing but quotes.
No. I mean, that's not all that's on here.
I feel like a majority of it is. Because that would just be the whole episode. We'll title it, Bailey reads fucking quotes from this movie.
No, but the next quote that I have that I want to talk about is something that I think conceptually we have stuff to talk about from. It's the "we're the middle children of history" quote.
Oh yeah, we can do a whole section on this one.
Yeah, our Great War is a spiritual one. Our Great Depression is our lives. I think that was more relatable to Americans prior to 2001 because that's when the whole like Afghanistan, Iraq, all of that stuff started. So that is our Great War.
That started before that.
Right, but I mean, what I'm saying is mainstreamed.
You mean like 9/11?
That's what is. Did I not say 9/11?
No, you didn't say 9/11. You said Afghanistan. I'm like, well, I think that was like the 90s.
Right. Okay. What I meant was 9/11. So I think the quote is really good, especially before 9/11, because prior to that, Americans didn't see themselves as having like a great war. And I'm not saying that that created like a positive one, but a lot of Americans, especially men, which is what this movie is about, I feel like that specific line might have been hurt by 9/11 in how relatable it is now. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, because 9/11 changed a lot.
Right.
But before this, yes, because
The last one prior to 9/11 or prior to the events that spawned because of that was probably Vietnam.
well, yeah, because even the Gulf War wasn't
Yeah.
that big of a deal. I mean, it is now because like the Gulf War was like 9/11 was retaliation for the Gulf War. So obviously, yeah.
Right.
But at the time, it was like
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say at the time.
right. No. When this was wrote at the time, yeah, because Gulf War was in, but Vietnam was the last time the draft was instilled. You had people going all over the place, and before that, the generation before that, the baby boomers, because they're different than Generation X, right? Had World War II, right?
It was the generation before the boomers. It was the greatest generation that had World War II.
Well, the boomers still felt the effects of it because the boomers were being born at the end of it.
Right. The boomers' parents are the people who fought in the Great War or the people that were involved in it or World War II or...
Oh, no, the boomers had the Cold War.
Yeah.
Which was a huge deal.
I guess.
I mean, nuclear things. Like, they had, fallout shelters in place and shit. It was a deal. And they also had Kennedy assassinated. So, yeah, but before that, there wasn't really anything that was defining like that. But now we have, 9/11, the recession of '08, which I would say was a huge thing. And then, that virus thing.
Yeah.
That happened.
Yeah.
We have 2019, and then the recession that we're going through now.
Are we going through a recession now?
Oh, man, we're on the verge of it. If we're like some people say we are, some people say we're almost there. I think that we're very fucking close to it. In 2023, like next year, it'll definitely happen.
It's too bad we don't have someone like Tyler Durden to come and reset us all to zero.
Just reset us to zero. But no, I think the other quote in that movie that really exemplifies it, because you kind of touched on it, I think we need to touch on it a little bit more, is the generational stuff. Because when Tyler's in the bath, and he's like, call my dad. Dad says go to college. So I go to college, graduate college, and I call my dad up, and I'm like, well, what do I do now? And he says, well, go get a job. So I go out and get a job. Call him again. I'm like, what do I do? And he says, well, now I got to get married. But I feel like I'm too young to get married. Oh, shit. But I think that is also at the time what was going on.
I mean, I think that's still going on.
No, but see, that was the other part, is that, yes, at the time that's what was going on, but it's still going on. And I think that the millennials were byproducts of the generation before them, Generation X, who were byproducts of the generation of the baby boomers, obviously. But the baby boomers instilled stuff that Gen X followed, and then Gen X tried to instill it on the millennials. But because the millennials watched the way that the world was changing, because the millennials are the first ones that look at 401ks and are like, this is stupid. With, with recessions and with inflation and stuff, 401ks aren't what they used to be. And those ideas started with millennials. You don't really hear a lot of Gen Xers saying that. There are very few, but there are some. And I think that they were trying to instill their vision, but then the millennials were like, what if we did things a little bit differently? Like, why do I have to get married? Why is that the next step? Because I feel like I'm too young. You got married when you were young, and look at the divorce rate.
Exactly.
And I think that we as millennials look at that and go, okay, well, our parents fucked up. And even more so, like Generation Z, I think and a lot of people talk shit on Generation Z, but they've done some things that I'm like, that's defining of a generation, which we're not going to get into, but they've done some things. And I think that is fundamentally where that started, and that's also what the movie tries to preach as well. Is that generational divide of, why are you doing the things that your parents said to do?
Exactly.
Why are you blindly just following what your parents did? Did it work for them? Yes, but times have changed.
I mean, it didn't necessarily work for them. Like, so when you're talking about that, Tyler also talked about his dad setting up like franchises and stuff. And him setting up franchises, moving to a new city every 6 years, to me shows dysfunction in the path that they're preaching, or you know what I'm saying?
But it was a minor dysfunction because he was still on the path of making a franchise, being a family man, but he set up a new family every 6 years and a new franchise every six. Like, he did the same thing, but he did it in a rebellious way by changing it every 6 years. Still the same thing, though, still on the same path, just not in the traditional sense, or not as traditional, I should say. But I don't know. I think that we could get into a whole conversation about the hardships and the different generational things, but that's something that this movie kind of puts to the forefront.
Exactly.
It's talking about shit like that. So,
and that's one of the reasons why I like this movie so much. We already gave it a 5, but this movie touches on so many different subjects and genres, and if you look at it from specific angles, you can see so many different things, and there's always more to catch.
No, I completely agree. And every time I watch it, it's not a different movie because it is the same movie literally every single time. But like you said, there's so much that is talked about and things that you can catch, like the wall of sacrifices.
Yeah, the human sacrifice wall. I saw this movie. I've seen this movie probably like. This is probably one of the most seen movies I have.
Yeah, this is one of mine too.
Seen it more than 10 times, easily more than 10 times. And I didn't notice the wall of human sacrifices until maybe my 3rd or 4th viewing. Like, it was a couple viewings in before I saw it, and then I was just like, oh shit, that's cool as fuck.
And it's those little things. But every time you watch it, you're picking up on stuff like that. I think that this is one of those movies where every time I watch it, something like that pops up, and you're like, oh, okay. Because now, this viewing, the sheer absurdity of Tyler saying he's not Tyler is what I picked up on. And like the facial expressions, that, like, I knew the facial expressions were there, but to really pay attention to them and see what are you talking about, you fucking psychopath?
Right.
That's what I picked up on this time more than anything. And that's what I like about this movie. But I think that you have to understand it and be, God, I don't want to sound pretentious, but be like elevated enough to get it. Otherwise, you look at it as, like what we were saying, as a dude bro movie about, it's not even toxic masculinity. If you look at it from that angle, it's masculinity as a whole.
Yeah.
Even though it's toxic masculinity and one of the things that the movie touches on. Man, this movie deserves a 5. Roger Ebert, you're wrong. You don't get it.
The next thing I have that I want to talk about is the psychological element of breaking down people during their entry to Project Mayhem.
Oh, you mean where the applicant has to stand there for 3 days without food or shelter and without leaving, and only then can he be granted access? Well,
beyond that, because during it, Tyler or the narrator or both come out and basically they psychologically torture these people. They do and say things to them with intentions to break them, to make them better soldiers for Project Mayhem.
Too young, too fat, too blonde.
Yeah.
Get off my porch.
Yeah. Hits them with the broom and shit.
I'm going to go get a shovel.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Like, that scene is so powerful. Especially Jared Leto's character.
Angel face?
Yeah. Jared Leto's character.
Yeah.
Especially him, because his character is just used really well, especially with the knowledge of Jared Leto.
Yes.
Because I don't know if you caught it, but during the scene where he's talking about how everyone's told that they're going to be famous and rich and rock stars and this and that.
He looks right at him.
Yeah. During the part where he's talking about rock stars, Jared Leto is clearly being focused on. And it's funny because he is a legitimate rock star. He was in 30 Seconds to Mars.
Yeah,
Or
he had a
is-
band. He had a band, and because I don't know if they're still around.
I don't know either.
But actor, musician, and he looks at him when he says those. That was another thing I caught.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome.
Well, and I like that quote a lot too, where we've all been promised that we'll be movie stars, rock stars, and astronauts, and we've been lied to.
Yeah, and we're starting to realize that, and we're very pissed off.
Yeah, which I think that's probably the best quote of the movie.
It's definitely a solid one.
But well, I don't know. I think sticking feathers up your butt does not make you a chicken. Or now I got to I have to decide when I walk past her if I'm going to give her the crotch or the ass. I still use that today.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I ask myself that question anytime I'm in a cramped space.
I won't fly on a plane because I know that if it goes down, I'm just going to get high off of the oxygen.
Did you know you can swallow a pint of blood before you get sick?
I did not know that.
That's what Fight Club taught me.
Did you know that if you mix certain things, which I'm not going to say out loud,
Nope.
together using things, you can make a boom? Had to
That's all the information we're
all
giving
the
about
information
that.
we're going to give you. If you want to, you can watch the movie and figure out exactly what it says, because I'm not going to do that. Otherwise, I'll be arrested.
I don't know if you'd be arrested.
I don't know. I think I like Tyler, though, because Tyler is the personification of literally freedom. Like, fuck you. Like, this is anti-capitalism personified. He does everything the wrong way, has odd jobs, doesn't have a traditional job, steals fat from liposuction clinics.
How else you gonna make soaps other than how are you gonna make money if you're not selling women their asses back to them?
Which is great.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. Like the personification of, I just like Tyler as a character.
No,
even though I know I'm not supposed to.
I mean, I think you're supposed to like him as a character. You're not supposed to idolize him.
The book does a much better job, if I remember correctly, of villainizing him
Yeah, no.
than the movie does.
Well, have you read the comic books? Like Fight
I have
Club
not.
2, 3, or 4?
No, I don't count those. Like American Psycho 2 and 3 aren't a thing.
Theirs are bad. So American Psycho, the book, has either comic books or graphic novels as sequels. And they might not be called 3 and 4, but it's just a continuation of Edward's life. But I agree. In the book, Tyler is more villainized.
Yeah, he's way more villainized. Because I remember reading the book and going, wow, he's a psycho.
Well, so in the book, Tyler is portrayed as a very insidious force. And in this, he's portrayed more as a force of freedom. Like, he's evil because he's doing, terrorist stuff, but he's not evil. He's not a evil guy.
You don't view him as evil. You view him as freedom. Fuck yeah.
As misguided. At worst, misguided.
A misguided child, but not evil.
Exactly. But in the book, it's very, very clear that he is evil, bad.
And knows what he's doing.
Exactly.
He's not misguided. He is on the track to doing what he wants to do, which is wrong.
Exactly.
What's another thing that you wanted to talk about from your book of quotes?
So I don't have any more good quotes written that are necessary to talk about. However, another thing that I want to talk about is after the big reveal, when the narrator or Jack or Edward Norton is going to all of the bars and stuff, and everyone's just like knowingly greeting him. You know what I'm saying?
And winking at him.
I thought that was really cool because he's just like, or I guess this isn't after the reveal. This is right before
This
the
is
reveal.
right before.
And he's just like, oh, what the fuck? The whole time. I think that's awesome.
I do too. I like that where he's, in even the first one where he's talking to him and he goes, don't know what you're talking about. Sir, wink.
So stuff like that, that's something that I really like throughout this movie. And this isn't so much from like a conceptual standpoint, but just like as a film viewer.
Oh, a consumerist?
Yeah. Yeah, as a consumer. No, I really liked a lot of the shots that he did, like with the screen splicing of Tyler popping in.
David Fincher's a good fucking director.
Exactly. Or the scene with Marla Singer, where she's, having sex and it's not actually her breasts and it's the CGI ones, but the way it like flashes between them, or when Tyler picks up the phone and Marla's called for her suicide attempt and it shows him driving over there, or I guess it doesn't show him driving over there, but it shows him arriving and you can hear the voiceover of her doing the countdown. Like, I feel like all of those shots are done so well. So even if the movie, like, conceptually wasn't awesome, just the way it was shot feels good to watch to me.
Visually, it's very good, especially for 99. Like, I have to remind myself that this was 99, but again, David Fincher is good at what he does.
Absolutely.
And if you disagree with that, go fuck yourself.
No, if anyone's listening to this and they've seen, like, Fight Club and they hard disagree with our scores, or I guess I should say score since we gave it the same thing, please email us at 2idiots1podcast2022@gmail.com or message us on any of the social media sites, because I think you're wrong, but if you can convince me otherwise, that would be a amazing feat.
You won't be able to convince me. I'll always think you're wrong.
I mean, I probably will too, but I'm willing to... I want someone to try if they legitimately feel differently.
I mean, I'll let you state your case, and then I'll tell you why you're wrong.
Yeah.
But I'll listen to you.
Yeah. What do you got next for us?
Oh, I think the last thing that I want to talk about is his name was Robert Paulson.
Because in death, members of Project Mayhem have a name?
But in Project Mayhem, they have no name.
But in death, a
They
member
do.
of Project Mayhem has a name.
And it's that whole scene shows the difference between Jack and Tyler. Because Tyler doesn't... If Tyler was in control at that point, Tyler doesn't care.
No.
He has no name. There would never have been in death people or members of Project Mayhem have a name. It would have been he paid the $300 of personal burial money, knew what he was getting himself into, bury him in the fucking garden. And that's what they want to do because that's what Tyler has said to do. Because even when he's talking to when Jack's talking to Tyler about it, he goes, well, you got to crack some eggs to break some eggs to make an omelet.
Yeah.
Begin referring to that as, just cracking an egg is really insensitive and fucked up.
Especially because it's Bob.
Right, because Tyler doesn't care about Bob, but Jack does.
Oh, yeah.
Because Jack looks at him as his name was Robert Paulson. Like, he has a name, don't just bury him in the fucking garden.
Yeah, he's Bob with bitch tits.
He's bitch tits Bob. His name was Robert Paulson. And I think that I really like that scene because it just shows that the difference and the contrast between the two of them, even though they're the same person. And also because when he's going to all the different bars, one of the ones he goes into when he walks in, the one that does the reveal basically, all the cooks are chanting his name is Robert Paulson. His name is Robert Paulson.
Yeah.
So it's gone everywhere.
No, it's so good.
That's great.
So good.
And it's probably one of the most impactful scenes in the whole movie.
I agree with that. I don't know. I think there are a lot of really impactful scenes.
I mean, the whole movie's impactful, but...
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think back to the early watchings, because I feel like during early watchings, I was really impacted by the scene where Marla was dying and he goes to, like... That scene, I feel like, was really impactful the first few times I watched it. As impactful in the sense of showing who Tyler was in comparison to the narrator. Personality differences, if that makes sense.
Like he's going over to fuck her.
Yeah, because Edward Norton's character, Jack, the narrator, is on the phone with her and he's just like, fuck this, I don't want to do it.
I hate you.
Yeah, exactly. And he fucks off, and then Tyler's just like, ooh, yeah, mama, I'm going to swoop right in there and be like, what up, girl?
They're like, oh, you sound sexy, baby.
Yeah, oh, you took a bottle of Xanax and you're dying in your apartment? Don't let your soul evacuate that body. I'm coming over.
I'm going to make you evacuate that body, baby.
I don't know if you can say that.
Well, I don't know. This might be an NC-17 podcast because, I didn't say asshole, so.
As long as you don't say it in reference to someone's body part, we're fine.
Okay, that's fine. You're right.
As long as you, like, I can say man, Taylor's an asshole.
But you can't talk about my butthole.
Yeah. No.
Can't do that. Can't do that at all. Otherwise, it's NC-17.
Exactly.
But no, I'm trying to think of like, I don't know. Whenever I watched it as a kid, I really wanted to be Tyler.
Did you?
Dude, there was a point in time where I had the rose-colored glasses that he had and would wear them all the time.
I really want his porn shirt and his fishnet top.
You can buy them.
I know you can, but they're so expensive.
His jacket, I really liked his leather red jacket.
Isn't it like $400?
Yeah, it's stupid.
Because I've also looked into it.
Yeah, we've all looked at it and been like, I want to be like every dude who's ever watched it. I think the first time, wanted to be like Tyler. And then the more that you watch it, the more you really come to understand it, and they're like, oh. Or maybe it was because of young age.
No, I think that's what it is. I think that had we not been like less than like 15 the first time we saw it, we would have probably not be like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I was like 13 when I saw it for the first time, I think.
I don't know how old I was. I was in middle school though.
Yeah, so
I remember,
probably around that age.
I remember the first time I saw it.
I remember the first time I saw it too. And I want to say that, fuck, dude, I want to say that I was like 13 because I'm trying to think, because where my dad was living at the time, I think it was like 13 or 14.
I was in
13.
8th or 9th grade the first time I watched it.
I had not gotten laid before that, and I got laid at 14, so 13.
I'm pretty sure I got laid at 14 too, but
Dude,
that's not a podcast topic.
It's not a podcast topic. But no, and I remember the feeling I had was, oh, dude, Tyler Durden, that's who I want to be. Which I think a lot of people do, and that's how you get the toxic masculinity culture that is associated with this sometimes. But I digress.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, is there anything else that you want to talk about? Because I feel like if we talk about it anymore, we basically talked about the whole fucking movie.
Well, the issue with it is there's a lot of things I want to talk about, but I don't know how much of it is relevant. Like, I mean, I don't know. I think it would be cool to talk about all of the specific fights that happen and, you know, all of the different characters, like the guy who works at the car dealership and he sprays the priest.
Versus the dude who is in the mailroom.
Yeah.
Versus the waiter.
Exactly. Like, I think talking about those would be cool, but there's not really any point because if someone watches the movie, they saw it and they're probably like, ooh, yeah, that's cool too. But there's nothing I can really add other than saying, I fucking love that scene so much. This movie's so good.
Which I think we've hit all the major points.
I think so.
Which I really enjoy. So with that being said, we'll do. Do you have anything for Bailey's Babbles?
I don't, because I thought we were doing the Taylor.
We do. I just wanted to see what you're saying. So we're gonna play a game.
Okay, I'm hitting you with it.
It's called That's Gross 1990s.
Oh.
And I'm gonna read off four choices for every single year from 1990 to 1999.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm going to read them off. They're all popular movies, but only one was the highest grossing movie of that year. Okay, not now, because some of these, the older that they got, the better they got. But in the year of 1990,
okay,
was the highest grossing film Home Alone, Goodfellas, It, or Edward Scissorhands?
Goodfellas.
Home Alone.
Really?
Home Alone, buddy.
I knew it was popular immediately because it spawned so many sequels, but I still feel like Goodfellas would be better.
Goodfellas got better with time.
Was it not initially perceived well?
It was, but not as well. I would say that it's bigger than Home Alone now.
It is.
But not at the time.
Okay.
All right. You're 0 for 1.
I know, I'm horrible.
1991. Is it Silence of the Lambs, Point Break, Terminator 2, or Boys in the Hood?
Ooh, Terminator 2.
You are correct. You are 1 for 2 now. Those were good, though.
That was hard.
Yeah, I know. That was like the 90s ones were a little bit harder. I was like, fuck, okay. Because like 1992, is it Batman Returns, Bram Stoker's Dracula, My Cousin Vinny, or Aladdin?
Aladdin.
You are correct.
Easy.
It was Aladdin.
Easy peasy.
Oh no, that was an easy one.
Disney always wins.
Disney.
Kids movies.
Oh fuck yeah, dude. Well, and this also had Robin Williams and Gilbert Gottfried in there, who are both dead now. God rest their souls. But because of that, yeah. So congratulations, you are 1-2 or 1-3, 2-3. Are you 2-3? Oh yeah, you got Terminator 2, didn't you? Yeah. All right, 1993. Is it A Nightmare Before Christmas, Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, or Dazed and Confused?
Jurassic Park.
You are correct.
I know Schindler's List now, but at the time, Jurassic Park.
I would argue Nightmare Before Christmas is the most popular one now because of fucking
Probably.
emo kids.
Yeah, no, that's fair. In the mid 2000s, it became obscenely popular.
Oh yeah, I actually thought that it came out in 2005.
Really?
Yeah, for a very long time, I thought that it was like an early 2000s movie. It's not. It's 93.
No, I've seen that movie my whole life because my mom and dad were both into it. Or I don't know, my mom, one of my stepdads was really into it, and then my
Okay.
actual dad was into it.
That's fair. All right, you've only missed one.
It's surprising.
You're doing good. 1994.
Okay.
Is it Forrest Gump, Pulp Fiction, The Shawshank Redemption, or Interview with the Vampire, which I actually thought it was Interview with a Vampire. It is Interview with the Vampire. This one's hard.
Can I get those again?
Of course. Is it Forrest Gump?
I'm going to go with Forrest Gump.
You didn't even read the others.
Right. It's Forrest Gump, Dracula.
No. It's Forrest Gump, Pulp Fiction, The Shawshank Redemption, Interview with the Vampire.
I don't know why I thought Dracula. Oh, it was because it was the year before. I'm still going to go with Shawshank Redemption.
Are you going with Forrest Gump or Shawshank Redemption? You're
I'm
giving
going
me
to go
two.
with Shawshank Redemption.
Final answer?
I guess so.
Forrest Gump. You were correct the first time.
God fucking, I knew it.
But you still got it wrong. So you've missed two. All right, 1995, baby. Is it A, 7, B, Casino, C, Toy Story, or D, Batman Forever?
Toy Story.
You are correct. Children's movies win every time.
I told you, dog.
All right, 1996. Is it Scream, Happy Gilmore, Primal Fear, or Independence Day?
Independence Day.
Damn, dude, you're good at this. Yeah. Independence Day was the highest grossing one at the time. I think Primal Fear out of all of those is the best.
I think Scream is the best out of all those.
Have you not seen Primal Fear?
I have.
Fucking love Primal Fear.
I like
Edward
Scream
Norton
more.
in that one. Great.
I like Scream more.
Okay.
Scream's one of my all-time favorite movies.
Oh, I can tell because you think it beats out Primal Fear. All right, 1997, baby. Is it Good Will Hunting, Titanic, Men in Black, Lolita?
Titanic?
You are correct. It is Titanic.
That was hard.
But they're all good, though.
Which version of Lolita is that? I don't know if I've seen that one because I've seen the one from like the 50s or 60s, but I don't think I've seen a 90s version.
This is the good one.
The good one?
I call it the good one. It's the one that I'm familiar with, so I'm biased.
That's fair.
All right, 1998. Is it Saving Private Ryan, The Truman Show, A Bug's Life, or Rush Hour?
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, I got you with a 98, baby.
Rush
These were some
Hour?
good films. What'd you say?
Rush Hour?
Saving Private Ryan.
Really?
Yep.
Damn.
I've missed 3,
Okay.
which
yeah.
is really good.
I mean, for me especially.
Like, really good. 6 out of 9. All right, last one, 1999 for all the marbles.
Elmar Barros.
Is it Fight Club, American Beauty, Star Wars The Phantom Menace, or The Sixth Sense?
The Phantom Menace.
Damn, you got it. All right, you only missed
Although
3, 7 out of 10.
Fight Club is the best movie from that list.
Followed by The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Then American Beauty. I don't like The Phantom Menace. I hate that movie.
I mean, I think all of the movies are good. I just think Fight Club's the best.
I think Fight Club is the best. But you did a lot better on that one than you did the 1981.
Yeah, I know.
Like, you are a 90s kid.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was born then, son. I know what's up.
I was born in the 90s too.
Right, so you know what's up too.
Yeah, I know what's up. So, if you wanted to know our age, can I do our ages?
Yeah, I don't care, dude.
Okay. So the most popular, highest grossing movie when you were born was Toy Story.
Naturally.
And mine was Titanic,
Naturally.
which might be why I don't like Titanic.
I didn't think it was bad.
I mean, it's good,
It's
but it's not.
it's not the genre of movie that I'm into.
I mean, I like it because it gets kind of fucked up when you really think about it, because I don't think that Jack ever existed. Have I never told you, like, that thought? Like, I watched a video where someone was like, oh, yeah, Jack doesn't exist. And I'll see if I can find it, but they basically, every event that he talks about happened after the Titanic sank. Like, the World Fair and everything happened 3 years after. Like, every event that he recalls happens after the Titanic sank. So there's no way that he would have been able to do it. And Rose is an unreliable narrator in her old age, so she is remembering it completely wrong, and he never existed. He was not there, because he also sneaks on to the boat, right? Why does he sneak on? Everybody else is accounted for except for this one dude who sneaks onto the boat. So you cannot tell me that Jack is real. Jack is a figment of Rose's imagination the entire time because she's an 80-year-old lady. All right? And now you're going to watch that movie and be like, holy shit. That's what makes me excited about this movie now, is telling people, oh, yeah, Jack's not real.
It's something I'll definitely be watching for next time I see it.
No, the next time, because I went back after I watched the movie after reading and listening to that, and yeah, I'm very much convinced he's not real, because he could have fit on the door, but he didn't.
Right,
Because
that's
he ain't real.
yeah, or because Rose was just like, I don't want someone to know about our love affair.
No, much like how the narrator gets rid of Tyler, she got rid of her imaginary friend too. Tyler shoots him, or the narrator shoots himself to get rid of Tyler, and Rose is like, nah, fuck you, just go into the abyss.
That's funny.
But yeah, no, there's your thing. You're gonna look at that so differently next time you watch it.
I'm tempted to watch it just to see if that checks out.
Yeah, you'll watch it and you'll be like, holy shit, I can't believe that. Which it might be like really stretching it, or it could just be lazy writing. Like, you could chalk it up to lazy writing.
That's what my assumption is as to why he talks about events that hadn't happened yet. Is probably lazy writing.
But it's so much better to think of it as, oh, he doesn't fucking exist. Because all the evidence is there. But yeah, go watch that. And we'll do an episode over Titanic. Where it's like, oh yeah, he's not fucking real. There we go. Future episode. You're welcome. But with that, this has been Two Idiots, One Podcast. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Bailey.
And thank you so much for listening. We appreciate each and every one of you.
And have a jolly good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.